Hello, everyone. Welcome. We are live right now in the CannaBuzz community. So, huge shout out to all of our CannaBuzz members. Thanks, everyone over there, for supporting us. Check us out over at CannaBuzz.app. We're live there every Sunday now. We'll be doing great interviews like this one today that we have with Brad from Raw Genetics. But before we get into that too much, I also want to shout out TikiMadMan, a friend of Brad's. TikiMadMan sponsored our shows, so we are hugely thankful to him. If you need superior genetics and great combinations with stuff like Brad's breeding and all kinds of other genetics out there, check out TikiMadMan.com. So shout out to Tiki. We appreciate his support. And then, of course, once again, thank you to our CannaBuzz members for helping make this possible. If you want to help support the show, go to CannaBuzz.app and use the code NEWYEAR for 50% off your first month. We appreciate the support. All right, so today we are joined with, we have Brad from Raw Genetics. Brad is joining us from sunny California, and today we're talking about all things Raw Genetics and Zephyr Seeds, one of his latest projects. If you're not familiar with Brad's origin story, be sure to check out the Raw Genetics and TikiMadMan interview on YouTube that we did a few months ago. It's a great one. A lot of views on that one, which it's like a 2-hour long special. It's awesome. So definitely check that out. But Brad has most recently launched a new clothing line and a new clone site, which I think we're also going to be touching on later. So please welcome to the show, Brad from Raw Genetics. Welcome, Brad.
How's it going, everybody? Thanks for having me in again, man. It's always good to see you guys.
Yeah, I'm glad you're here, buddy. I'm glad you're here. It's going to be
Oh,
a
I'm
good
loving
time.
the shirt, man. Looking good.
That's right. That's right. We're going to be talking all about that. I'm really happy that you're here. We really want to start getting into the Raw Genetics projects that you got going on. So talk about a little bit about your breeding setup for Raw Genetics and how you go about creating all the great flavors and genetics that you have in your library.
Oh, absolutely. So, I'm just going to focus on kind of the approach to creating traditional seeds when we're hunting males and stuff like that, because I think that's a little bit more of a labor-intensive process. So obviously, you're going to start by deciding what you want to hunt and popping some seeds. So we're usually trying to see like what's getting good feedback from people. And also like where is the market heading as far as like, is everybody still drowning in gelato? It seems the market's kind of moving back toward OG Kush and a lot of gas and Kim and stuff like that, which we're really happy to see the twist there. So, most recently I dug back into some stuff. Juice Box is a good example. We popped a nice like 40, 50 Juice Box seeds. We used Farmer Freeman to do the sex testing and identify the males early so we could separate the males and the females and send them to their respective directions. From there, the males end up getting fully flowered as long as everything has like the good growth rate, structure, the things that we're looking for, right? And for that, typically, depending on scale, we're going to just try to aim for like a nice, really nice, like maybe a Gorilla Grow tent or something like that. Especially with males and a pollen source, you certainly want to make sure you have control of all of that that pollen as it's letting loose. Especially if you go to cracking off on like flowering, 40 males or something like that. If you have allergies, that's pretty much hell on earth for you there. I don't have allergies, but even with it, a good amount of pollen, I'll still feel like my throat gets dry and raspy, and you go to blow your nose, you're blowing out like yellow balls of snot. It's pretty wild, So, you really want to control that setup. So what I aim to do is put it inside of a tent with a lot of airflow. I typically have a couple of carbon filters that are pulling on it. I like to have, I believe that's negative pressure, right? So it's kind of pulling through. So I'll put some ducting at the bottom, something like that to help increase the airflow so that the tent's not like compressing down, obviously, right? And then from there, you want to have like a watering system. There's a variety of ways to approach that. What I've found works really well is like go to Home Depot, get yourself a 0.5 horsepower transfer pump, and then get yourself some semi-hard poly line and some locking pieces so you can create like a watering system in there. because obviously you don't want to be opening this tent a lot. You kind of want to be observing as you're going down the path. And then from there, it's a little bit of autopilot as long as you've got a good watering system with the inline filter to make sure that your drip heads don't, trip out on you there. And that's pretty much how we initiate, selection on males. And that'll allow you to pretty much have a hands-off approach where you're keeping an eye on them, monitoring the tank, and get them deep into flowers. So you can really see like who's going to show nice structure, the height, the pollen drop day, and all those different things that you may be assessing. If you're looking for like a specific flowering time or something like that, you may try to choose something that drops pollen a little earlier. And then I would say, the setup for hunting females is similar. It may be, bigger or smaller. It just really depends on availability. But either way, if you can, you put them in a nice sealed room, watering system, CO2, a couple of dehumidifiers to make sure you have full control. Because as you progress later into flower, a lot of people don't realize, but you're going to have a lot more moisture coming in the air. You get bigger plants. They're transpiring a lot more, from the root zone up. And even if you're really controlling your watering cycle, you're still adding a lot of moisture into your environment every day. So it's important to have probably extra dehumidification along with a lot of airflow. And that's kind of just like the gist, the overview of the setup. We're just trying to make sure we have good, clean supply of consistent watering that we can measure the watering on. I'm definitely not the best at it. I think there are probably a lot of people who are more skilled at monitoring the amount of water and steering the crop in that direction, but it does help to keep them to the drier side. And you would be surprised how dry you can keep them. One of my good friends, every time I see, they've got like a big rec setup. Every time I go over and see it, I'm just like, bro, these plants look like they're about to die. They're so dry, but then the plants look perfect. And I'm just like, man, I'm too scared to do this. But just as an example, like if your system is running very consistently and you're watering like 3 times a day, maybe 2 minutes, 3 times a day or something like that late in flower, you can keep them to the dry side and the plants, they really dig it. Most cultivars anyway.
Oh, we actually had a question. Sorry, JR. Yeah. We had a question come in from Tara about the males and growing males that I thought was interesting that I wanted to throw in. But have you noticed that is there any difference in feeding the male plants versus the female plants, I guess, in terms of like nutrients or anything like that?
Specifically, I don't treat them any differently unless I know like the line, the genetics that's behind that are like don't want to be watered a lot, or maybe like I know like this line is sensitive to light or something, then maybe you make a tweak, but it's really based on just the genetics flat out and not so much male or female. I tend to try to treat them the same, right? Because I want males that are going to perform like I expect the females to. I want them to work in my setup. Especially with males, you're planning on keeping them around for extended periods of time because maybe you use them once or twice, and then you just got to kind of hold on to them, see how the market responds, maybe crack off a couple more runs with it before you let the male go. Because unfortunately, you just can't keep them all, right? Especially when you're trying to create a lot of different things throughout the year and keep moving forward into the next years and planning further and further ahead. It just becomes more complex to keep like for instance, I don't have the French toast male anymore. I had him for probably about 3 or 4 years. And then I just realized like, we're not going to be using this. We need to just be going forward. And it was time to part ways with the male at that stage. So I'm just looking for something that's going to perform identically in my environment to the rest of the plants, right? Within reason.
And so are you, you're collecting the pollen and then introducing it to the females? You're not putting the actual male in the room or in the area with the females?
It's definitely my preference to put the male or the pollen donor, whether it may be a reverse plant or not. I prefer to have live pollen source available during the run. I know a lot of people ask me about storing pollen, and I just never really have great answers for them because it's not something that I personally do. If I do store pollen, I don't freeze it. I don't plan to keep it for like a year. You know what I mean? I'm just going to rerun my pollen source or move forward to a different pollen donor at that stage. But if I'm going to keep it around, As an example, on one of the last Georgias that we did a reversal on, I just had two massive, beautiful Georgias at the end. They made it all the way to the end of my need for them, and they still looked perfect. And I was like, man, I don't really want to throw these away. So I took all of the nice, perfectly reversed flower material. First, I like shook it loose, busted everything that I could, right? Then I chop it down and I just put it in like metal trays, and I just kept like the spears, and then I just let those sit in a dry area in the dark, as something that I may use later. What I'm really thinking is probably passing out some pollen as like a promotional item, and just kind of sharing some Georgia pollen with people. I
That's
haven't
cool.
gotten to it. I still have them, and I'm planning on doing that. And just because, like I said, for me, I really prefer to use fresh pollen, and just do, like, for instance, we're trying to bring more Skittles pie, cherry paloma, and blue slushy, because those are just so popular with people. So we don't want to run out. And for that, I'm just going to reverse fresh Georgia pies. I will have the pollen as a backup because, I mean, there is always a chance like sometimes things don't go according to plan. But that's also why I'll try to reverse more than one, right? I'll try to reverse like around 3. If it's something I don't know, I'll aim for more. If it's something like Georgia where I really know what's going on, I'm confident to do 2. You know what I mean? So just depending on whatever it is. But I will go for fresh pollen, 9 times out of 10.
And now when you're doing your S1, when you're pollinating that with, itself, are its expressions pretty like in a narrow field, or are they a wide variety of expressions in those S1s?
I think it varies a little bit. Like if we just look at the strawberry fritter S1s versus the Georgia pie S1s, the Georgia pie are very uniform, in line with each other. There's enough diversity there that you can get a little bit different flavor, right? But the build, the look, the height, the flower times, those things are very in line. And with strawberry fritter, we saw more diversity, right? We saw some that leaned more to strawberry, some that leaned more to apple. So it definitely had a wider spread versus Georgia pie. So I think, as with most things, it just kind of comes down to the selection and the line itself, right? The history of those genetics and how that plays in. And obviously the selection of like the females.
There's still some influence from the grandparents and the parents, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, on the strawberry fritter S1s, you could definitely find things that lean more apple than strawberry. And so you're looking back in toward, apple fritter at that stage, and back toward what I think it's like C99 in there or something. But yeah, it just really depends on what the line is. There's not I don't think, a solid rule or behavior that you can expect from them. And that's why I've had some people tell me, oh, I hate S1s. They're not good. And then I'm like, well, we've had fantastic results. Like we did apples and banana S1s. We've got nothing but positive results on those. And people have been asking for them to come back. So, I think how the quality of what you're making an S1 with is paramount, because you're just looking back inside of that one pheno and just saying like, okay, in here, maybe it spreads like this or like this. And so, as always, with any breeding you're doing, the quality of what you're using is really going to have, obviously, the biggest impact on the quality experience that the customers and consumers are going to get on the back end, when it comes to genetics.
That's excellent, because my buddy Do You Right Genetics did a S1 of that Paloma cut. Nice. And sent me a bunch of seeds. I'm pretty excited to see what might come of that someday.
Yeah, I think you'll find some really cool things in there. One thing that I'm pretty excited about diving into and playing with a little bit is, I guess Ethos kind of pioneered the nomenclature of like putting R1 on something, but I kind of like it because it kind of lets you know that you're like doing a reversal combination line breeding thing going on. So for some of our more popular things like Skittles pie, cherry paloma, blue slushy, and a variety of other things, I'm looking at taking like, obviously 2 different plants, the best 2 that we have, because we have more than one from a lot of these lines, and then reversing one onto that, and then kind of trying to do a little bit of line breeding, not doing S1s, so we're not going back into itself over and over. We're just going to select 2 premium cuts, blend them, and then again select 2 premium cuts and blend them. and then just keep testing to see what is the consistency. Does this increase intersex issues? From what I'm like seeing and reading, it shouldn't, based on quality selections, of course. I mean, if you pick a bunch of poor performing, very sensitive plants, then you'll probably progress that into the next line. So we'll choose the most, rigid, best performing plants that we can get. And, but yeah, I'm really interested in doing like feminized line breeding. I don't see any of the other breeders doing it or really playing with it. And, I mean, people aren't really doing a lot of line breeding right now. It's not really the most popular thing, but I think that if you could give it to people in a feminized platform, that it might have more viability. I mean, there's always a market for line breeding, so don't take it the wrong way, But I'm just saying, like, as far as like what are the main products that are really garnering attention from the consumer right now, it's really all just the initial F1 cross, whether it's a feminized or a traditional,
I mean, as a home grower, I love feminized seeds. I just have a 3x3 tent, in a small place. So I can only pop so many plants at a time. So feminized seeds are, and then shout out to Farmer Freeman, who you also shouted out earlier in the show. I just used him earlier this week and got the results like literally the day after he received them in the mail. So
he's so good.
Yeah.
He's so good.
We have a code for him. CannaBuzz 420, I think, is the code that gets you like 10% off. So if you're a new Farmer Freeman customer, check that out. If you're a Farmer Freeman customer,
yes, highly endorsed.
So JR, we wanted to jump into Brad's latest like new varieties and projects, right, on the raw genetics side of things.
Yeah, I want him to talk about some of the new stuff that Raw's coming out with, and maybe. Tell us a little more about that blue slushies. I mean, that one seems to be super desirable.
Yeah, blue slushy's been instantly a fan favorite from like the first time we made it in the initial Georgia line. Blue slushy, as soon as I put it up, it sold out. We made more, put it up, sold out, and then it's done that probably like 5 more times since then. So now it doesn't sell right out anymore because it has been around for a little bit, but it is definitely one of our higher demand products, like Skittles Pie, as well as like cannot keep Skittles Pie in stock. Like it just, we make it super hard to make and then it's gone. And I'm like, all right, I got to get back on this thing, So yeah, I think blue slushy is great.
I think I've done like 3 or 4 of your Georgia Pie Femme projects, and they're all very solid. And the outcome, I haven't had anything that I felt wasn't superior. I mean, obviously some stand out a little more than others, but the whole entire line that you've done with the Georgia Pie Femmes, I recommend every one of them because they're all of them have the potential for super fire stuff. So what is some of the new other new stuff that you're coming out with?
Yeah, we've got a lot of new stuff that we just made. I just had a ton of things sex tested a few months back from Farmer Freeman. I guess it's probably closer to 6 months back now, but time flies, right? We've created a variety of new lines based on things from Zephyr or previous work from Raw. And one of the newer things we did is called Bacchio belts. That's from the rainbow belt stuff from the Zephyr project with Tiki. And I flowered out a bunch of those, found nothing but really, really great stuff, really nice males. Also, West Coast took a bunch of flowers over to Ego Clash. He said that the guys stole his flowers at Ego Clash to smoke them because they were good. So I'll take that as a compliment. And but yeah, I was really digging it. So when I found a male that was looking like a real banger, I thought we better use that. And also, I know I like to kind of razz gelato a little bit, but I think gelato is a profile that's got a lot of staying power. Otherwise it wouldn't have so much control in the market. And so, I also wanted to start working on back cross lines and doing more line breeding stuff. I wanted to focus with the males on back crossing and trying to do line breeding feminized. But anyway, yeah, so I hit the Bacchio cut. We've got Gelato 41 back cross built, and we're getting ready to start testing that and continuing to back cross further down the line till we reach like just a nice stable level of seed form of Gelato 41, basically. In that line, I hit a few other things. It's pretty cool. We actually linked up with Y East, and he sent over Animal Rescue and a horchata cut. And yeah, we've used those now to create a little collaboration with him. So the animal rescue, we're actually going to keep back as a program that we have, a West Coast Connoisseur, where we're just making really exclusive things with like other breeders. And then the horchata one will release, and then I kind of doubled up on the collab, and I also did a pecan pie line, because in the sense of trying to do all these back crosses, we've got to start back crossing Georgia really aggressively. So I bust out the pecan pie, found a nice male in there. We hit Georgia. I also put the animal rescue and the horchata in there. Both of those are going to release. So we actually have 3 crosses with Y East that are like staging. They're in testing right now. And as those things clear testing, then obviously they'll start to become available for people. So yeah, I'm pretty excited. I think that the collab with Y East is going to be fun. I think the community is really going to enjoy that. It's going to be some really exciting stuff to play with in the garden. And then on top of that, there's probably at least another, I think there was 4 other things. The Bacchio line is pretty small right now, so there's only about 4 things beside the horchata in there. And then the pecan pie line, which is Georgia burnt toast, it's a little bit broader. And with that, we're looking to bring more of the OG gas stuff back to the market, right? So we're doing the Georgia back cross, but then we hit Skywalker, Pave, Hardcore OG. I think we did Joker's 33. Let me see here. I know I got a list. But yeah, I think it's a really exciting line, and those are probably the 2 most prevalent ones that we're going to focus on trying to get all the testing done on first. Let's see. I hit Rainbow Slushy, Blue Cookie, Grape Pie, Trop Cherry, RS11, and Joker's 33. So those are the other ones that I may not have mentioned there. But yeah, so this one's definitely got some stuff to bring in some nice orange and grapefruit and cool flavors. I think that pecan pie times blue cookie should be similar to blue slushy. It's going to be a little bit different. You have more cookie in there with the burner cookie French toast in the back of the pecan pie line. But yeah, I think it's definitely built to bring in more gas, more OG, and a little bit less of that gelato wave.
So now we're all looking forward to 2023. It kind of feels like good vibes are kind of going around right now. What is Raw looking forward to for the year 2023?
Yeah, I'm pretty pumped. We've got a pretty good network of really great people that we know, and I've been trying to position Raw so that we can, fully be participating in the rec market and stuff like that. And it looks like through a couple of our friends, we're going to have some nice stuff kicking off this year. I'm not sure how long it's going to take to work all the logistics of it out, but they're pretty on me to bring over the genetics and get the ball rolling. So with a partnership through the Hydro Boys, we should be bringing Raw Genetics as a flower brand to market this year. And I have another collaboration with a nursery, and they're looking to bring like actual clones, right, to the cultivators and stuff. So through those 2 platforms, we're hoping to kind of increase our reach and deliver our products a little bit better to everybody, at least in California starting out. I mean, if you're in Oklahoma, there's already a few places where you can get really good verified genetics through Oklahoma Connoisseur, and there's a variety of other people growing our gear out there as well. But yeah, that's probably the biggest goal, is just bringing this thing full circle all the way into the rec market.
Exciting.
That's super exciting.
Yeah, I live out in Cali, so I'll definitely up in NorCal, so I'll keep an eye out for some clones. It's exciting to see.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm super excited. It's unknown waters for me, but that's definitely the goal.
Nice.
So JR, we were gonna jump into the project of Brad with plus TikiMadMan equals Zephyr seeds. Is that correct? Let's give us the lowdown. I know we talked about a bit about Zephyr in our previous interview when we had both of you guys on, but yeah, give us the rundown or the background on Zephyr seeds and what people can should expect from it or can check out today.
Yeah. Zephyr is definitely the home of all of our long running work with TikiMadMan. Our collaborations kind of turned into more just constant. It went from a collaboration to this, we're doing this daily. You know what I mean? So it seemed like the natural evolution to try to put you know, a name on these projects rather than just saying it's raw, it's tiki, it's raw, it's tiki. I thought that it would be better to have it under its own label and kind of try to give it its own life. You know what I mean? So we started with the Rainbow Belts traditional line, Rainbow Belts 2.0. And then when I hunted that male, I also hunted some of Tiki stuff, which was the tropical runts. And I found like a really, really great male in there. And so I went ahead and did a run with that. So these tropical runts crosses that we have, I think there's only about 5 or 6 of them. It's a very small line, and I didn't keep the male. So it's a one-off. So, you know, if it's something people are interested in, it is inevitably a limited edition item now because I couldn't reproduce it. That male is gone. And the goal is just to keep working forward off of stuff like this, right? But what was really cool about the Trop Runts is it wasn't just like a tangy orange kind of thing. It had like grapefruit, like nice citrus. Yes, there is an orange aspect to it, but there was definitely like melons and stuff in there too. So it was a little bit more interesting than just like a traditional orange cookie or tangy or Tropicana thing. And we blended that with, I selected 2 things from Tiki, 2 things from Raw, and then I picked 2 things that are just popular in the market. So we did Devil Driver and Detroit Runts from Tiki, and then we did Skittles Pie and Rainbow Slushy from Raw, and then I did Gary Payton and Cereal Milk. Unfortunately, the Cereal Milk's probably not going to make it to market. It just really didn't produce anything. Cereal Milk, I know you see in any interviews from me, I'm kind of giving Cereal Milk a hard time usually, so it's not my favorite one, but it's nice flour. She's just a pain to deal with, you know what I mean? So even Tiki hit me up when I gave him the seeds, and he was like, "Oh, everything looked good, but the Cereal Milk." I was like, "Yeah, I know." Like those aren't for the market, you know what I mean? Those Tiki loves Cereal Milk, so I'm sure he'll probably dig deep into those, and we'll find some cool stuff. But yeah, I'm pretty excited. Skittles Pie's been nothing but a great performer, and same thing with Detroit Runts and Devil Driver and all that stuff. So I think that the combination of those, and we're deep in the candy realm. We're kind of thinking about staying somewhat in that area of just like always kind of having a candy aspect with Zephyr, at least in the short term. It's hard to really project what it's going to evolve to long term, just based on the climate of the market and the evolution of those things. It's kind of hard to foresee past like a year or 6 months even. Sometimes it changes really quickly. But yeah, that's kind of the idea with Zephyr, is continuing to work with Tiki, building that platform, and you know, long term also bringing that fully to market. You know, like Tiki's fully to market, Raw's coming to market. So we'd like to also see Zephyr reach that point as well.
That would be really cool. I think it's cool that you guys are taking kind of the favorites of each library and presenting them together for projects for the people, and having these one-off drops. I think are super cool. I mean, it really gets people excited, and that's one of the things about seeds that is so exciting, is that for anyone who's ever collected baseball cards, basketball cards, collected comics, you know, it's very easy to get into that. And to have a library nowadays of some of the most amazing stuff out there, which I think you and Tiki are doing, I mean, it's just super exciting to see those drops happen and to see that new stuff come out. That's really cool. So when you guys are coming up with new varieties, you kind of said you wanted to stay kind of within that candy realm. What are some of the like profiles of that candy, and what are some of the varieties that you would recommend for the strong variety or for the strong candy flavor out of your Zephyr line?
Yeah, so out of Zephyr, you can definitely get the Bacchio belts. I pretty much kind of just slap belts onto a lot of that stuff, just kind of so it's very consumable by the name. You know what you're getting, right? It's like not some crazy name that's, even though the crazy names are a lot of fun, sometimes you get the name, and if you don't have information, you won't really know what's going on. You get Bacchio belts, you kind of know Gelato 41, some kind of a rainbow belt situation going on here, right? So I think
Yeah.
that the whole launch line, which was originally built just to make things off of for Zephyr and for Raw and stuff like that, there's a ton of things in there. The Bacchio, the blue belts, the Sherb belts, things like that definitely have the potential to like blend that candy profile and help carry it forward with a nice twist, because they already have like that sweet, sharp, and cream going on from the sherbet, right? That's in there in the gelato and in obviously from Sunset Sherbet. I'm trying to think, like, man, there's so many things in the line. Some of them have already sold out, like rainbow slushies. That one sold out really quick. And that was obviously our strawberry fritter crossed the Skittles and then with the rainbow belts as well. And I made that two different ways, right? I made it for raw, feminized, and I also made it traditional and Zephyr. Both of them sold out. And just honestly, when you flour those out, you just get better looking Skittles, nice bud, still that medium height kind of a bush plant. But man, the candy and the fruit that you can find in there is really top notch. I mean, the whole slushies thing is just built around flavor. You know, I'm not thinking about making hash. I'm not even thinking about plants that are going to be commercially viable or any of that. It was solely focused on creating flavor. And I think that worked really well. And that's, you know, a good example there with the rainbow slushies. But yeah, there's a ton of different things. Hold on, let me pull up a list and I can give a better recommendation here. Rainbow belts.
And when you say candy, what are some of like the specific flavors, like strawberry Jolly Rancher or like Skittle,
Yeah.
or what are we?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, when they called it Skittles, you know, the plant that we all know is Z or whatever, I think that it was a fair assessment, because even people that I know who aren't don't have like a developed palate, right? I can show them Skittles and I can say this is what candy smells like, and they'll go, "Oh yeah, that does smell really sweet and fruity," right? So I always kind of perceived Skittles to be like a grapefruit, pine, citrus, and some other like melded fruit notes in there, but it really centers back around to how, I don't know, the way I would describe it would be like this grapefruit and pine that mixes, and it smells nothing like the individual. Like I can pick the notes out, but then it just gives you this really sweet, I mean, it literally kind of smells like the way a bag of Skittles tastes. Like if you just grab like a handful of like a few and go chew it up, that scent that you get from chewing up, that's kind of what I get from Skittles. So when I'm thinking candy, I'm really thinking like something that's easily aligned with like artificial flavors that we see in candy.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I love the fact that you have so many flavors to offer in your lineup as well, between raw and Zephyr. You know me, I like kind of the funky, earthy, gassy, OG kind of stuff, and I really, really am loving the stuff that you're putting out. What are some of the future projects for Zephyr, and what are you guys looking for down the line?
Right now, I don't have another project specifically lined up for Zephyr. The Trop Runts is kind of the next one. It's just rolling out right now. I think we made two of the crosses available already, and the other ones will start rolling out probably over the next month or something like that. For Zephyr, I know Tiki's gonna grab the reins and he's gonna make a couple lines, probably some traditional lines, since that's really what he specializes in, is with the males and stuff. And while he works on that, that will free me up a little bit to dive into making some fem stuff for Zephyr. So I'm just trying to decide, you know, what do we want to do? Do we want to grab like a popular clone only from the market, something that is like really good rapport, like maybe RS11 or something that people really dig right now, and then take that and put that with like a bunch of our selections so that we're making something that's not just a bunch of popular things together? Or do we want to find something out of some of these lines, which I do have a variety of phenos that are in the process of getting vetted, and then whatever really comes out to be like the bangers, you know, that's what we would look at potentially reversing then. So I don't know. I'm looking to definitely bring feminized seeds to Zephyr. Feminized seeds have just done so well for raw, and you know, like Sam was saying, it's definitely something that is like an easy solution for people who have like a limitation on space, or whatever the situation is, right? There's a variety of influences that may affect how many seeds you can pop. Obviously, it's labor and financially intensive as well. So yeah, I think that fem seeds are a great solution. And, over the last few years where we've been making feminized seeds, I've honestly seen nothing but phenomenal responses from people. And of course, you do get a few people who are just like hearing the things I used to hear too. Fem seeds make herms and all this horrible stuff. But just, in physical practice and actually creating and hunting and testing and everything, I do not see higher intersex rates. If anything, sometimes I see even lower intersex rates than a traditional line. Which honestly, I was in that school of thought, which is definitely just not based on any real understanding or experience with it. It's kind of just like, I don't want to fuck up the genetics, right? Oh, putting all this fem shit's ruining it. I mean, I don't think so. I think it's really making some phenomenal things. And the benefit to that is like when you're reversing a female, you know so much more about what you might be creating versus selecting a male. Like to have that level of insight on selecting a male, you really got to full flower, and you've got to hope that whatever male you aim for has at least a small amount of trichome production, right? It's not something I'm looking for males to be like frost factories. If one is a frost factory and a winner, that's cool. But as long as they produce some frost that you can get in there and kind of rub on it, smell that, that's really going to allude to you on what the profile is the male has and what it might potentially carry forward. And every time I've selected like a really good male that's done great things, I've been able to get a little bit of a scent off of it, and you're like, oh man, this is good. Like the strawberries and cream male that we made all the strawberry stuff off of. When I got that, same thing. He didn't get super frosty, but he did throw a little bit down on the edge of the leaves and right around where it was balling up and stuff. And I was able to rub that, and it just smelled like a fresh cut strawberry. And everything that male made had that profile. You know what I mean? And same thing with the rainbow belts male, same thing with this trop runts male I'm expecting. I have an idea of what's going on there. And so I found that to be very useful where you can with the males, but with the feminized seeds, you know what I mean? Like it's very likely that you could be reversing something you've seen run under 100 lights. So like it's producing fire, it's producing yields, it's producing frost, it's giving you the color, it's got the contemporary profiles. And then you're like, well, the other side of the coin is what you mix that with. But yeah, I love fem seeds, and I think that if anybody out there is in the school of thought where they think like these are gonna like mess my garden up, you should give it a try. There's so many people that make fem seeds. Does not have to be raw. You can pick any other breeder, and as long as it's a breeder that's doing good work, like Soulfire does great work, makes great fems, you're gonna have a good time. You're gonna have good results. So
yeah, I like I said, I've ran quite a few of the fems, and I've never had any stability issues at all. Never.
Nice.
And like you said, I think I've had more instability with F1 regs than I have with fems.
Right. And I don't really know exactly what causes that variable. It's a little bit unknown under the hood. I'm sure there's some science behind it that somebody could probably help us understand more. But yeah, it really does seem to be the case that like the feminized seeds, pending selection, of course, they're good.
Yeah.
There's not zero intersex in anything, right? No breeder is producing stuff that has zero. You may not find it very frequently. Well, that means that we're doing our job if that's the case. But I think it's inevitable that if you are actually hunting seeds and you really are like looking through stuff, you're eventually going to come across one where the hormones are a little off balance and it may trigger. And some people deal with it better than others. I know recently we had somebody who we were helping. We're doing everything we can to help them. And I really think they were just having issues in their garden. And it was just one thing after another with them, and we offered to try to, make a phone call with them and try to troubleshoot it. And even with all the help, they chose to take whatever it was, one issue that they should have been able to isolate before it became a real problem. and they're just like bashing us all over the internet. I had to remove them from Discord. I mean, it was really sad because when these things happen with community members, you can ask anybody who hangs out in our community.
Yeah.
Like, you can be pretty fucking rude to me and I'm still gonna be really nice to you. That's just how, you know, because it's about raw genetics. It's not really about me. So, and in this case, you know, that this person I'm talking about, they literally made like a bunch of fake Instagram accounts with no followers or anything. And they just started putting the craziest comments on all the pages. So, you know, I don't know, man. Some people take it really hard when they have an issue. And I just hope that everybody knows, like, if you're selecting to, you know, grow stuff from raw and you have some kind of a problem, we stand behind our gear. We're always going to do the best we can to help you. Unfortunately, there's not, you know, we can't do everything. But if you have something where you're not happy with the experience, you know, like 9 times out of 10, I'm shooting you something new. I want you to have a good time. Right. And, you know, that's just part of it, right? Like, it is part of the experience to deal with removing plants that are displaying intersex traits. And the more you see it just over hunting, the less it bothers you, and the more that you're like, okay, I just need to let me pull this guy out of here. You know what I mean? This one's a risk. Or maybe sometimes it just throws one little nanner and you just pinch that ball off, you keep an eye on it, you never see another one. It just, you don't know until you try. But usually from seed, it seems like it's caused by some type of instability in hormones. That's just me guessing. That's not like a scientific fact. You know, I don't want to make a bold claim here, but I'm just looking at based on hands-on experience and just trying to understand, like, why would one plant have an issue when, like, let's say you run 20 of one kind, you find 2 that do it, but you got 18 that didn't. You know what I mean? Like, what is the real factor? They're all treated the same. They're getting the same newts. They're getting the same VPD, airflow. Everything's identical, right? So it's something to do with the hormones under the hood, right? Which I know a lot of breeders. Go ahead.
It happens in nature all the time.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just with cannabis seeds. You know, it happens in nature all the time. And my thought behind it is if you have a stable female that you've tested and you know is stable, and then you make pollen from her to the same female genetics that are stable, you would think that it's almost kind of like a line breeding thing where you're just breeding instability.
Right. Yeah, I mean, in theory, right, it shouldn't be excessively unstable or unstable, rather. So, yeah, it's interesting for sure.
Yeah, JR, that's it was an interesting point that you just made, that it happens. It's natural. It happens like in literally every species, including humans. All kinds of just stuff just happens. So, but yeah, let's dive in. We're going to talk about your clones business. Let's talk about raw clones. I think that's pretty new. It's definitely new to me. So I will be just a student here learning from you about what's going on with raw clones. And so give us a little bit of background on it, and then dive into, like, how do you prepare these clones? Where do they come from? All that kind of stuff.
For sure. So we've been kind of off and on throughout the years making clones available. It's never really been like a focus or a consistent thing, right? It's kind of been like, it's up, it's off, it's up, it's off kind of thing. But, you know, coming into last year, I wanted to really start providing just more services to people. And I think we have a pretty good library. And so we started by just going out and sending off to, I believe it's CSP Labs, and getting, you know, the hops latent virus testing done. And then once things came back clean, we had like a group of things that we're going to release. So we start releasing that. The cloning process, you know, we're using oxyphos and oxidate and, you know, bleach baths and all this different stuff to make sure that the clones are clean. And then obviously by having the lab testing done too, then we know, like, people are getting things that don't have issues. So far, we haven't had anything pop hot for hops latent virus, which is nice. Obviously, I know people are like over the top freaking out about. Some people are, some people aren't. I think that, you know, it's been around for a long time. Likelihood of it being news, pretty slim. So, you know, but as far as providing genetics, it's very important to us that we're providing clean genetics and we're not causing issues for people. Another thing about us is we kind of guarantee delivery. So it's domestic only. There's no international option. A lot of people have asked. Unfortunately, the answer is just no. You just simply cannot do that. But for domestic, I think it's inevitable that sometimes things show up and maybe it took too long. There's a variety of things that could cause an issue there. Also, one thing I've seen very consistently, that's caused probably more replacements than anything, is when people get them, I think they kind of crack them open and just go plant them. And I think I need to start including a paper that kind of gives them a little bit of guidance here. Our recommendation, and the way that I do it personally, if somebody gets something to me, right, it's been in 100% humidity for, let's just say, 2 or 3 days. If you pull it out into, it's like 40-50% here, that drop can cause the plant to just wither and die, right? They just can't handle the dryness, the VPD change, or however you want to look at that, and it just smokes them, kills them, right? I've seen this a lot. So what I do is I will typically take the clone, I'll either put it like under a sink or get a spray bottle with water. You can even use like a foiler spray, or as much as like an IPM, maybe like a pure crop or something. But the whole purpose of spraying the plant down is kind of buffering how quickly it reaches that dry stage, right? So I'll pull them out, I'll spray them down, and then maybe I'll leave whatever shipping container or whatever it is partially cracked. The whole thing is you want to slowly bring them into whatever your new ambient temperature, relative humidity, all those things are. If you just take it out and plant it, you're probably going to have a rough time, right? And we've had people who've been okay, and we've definitely had a ton of people who have done this exact thing and just been like, I don't know, man, it died after 2 days. I'm like, don't worry, we got you.
Yeah.
Like, guys, like, it's not cheap to get them to you, but either way, we definitely are willing to bite the bullet on it, and we want to make sure that people, again, it's just really about helping provide a quality experience and helping people improve their gardens. And so we're willing to take the loss on sending it back out to you, right? Cost us money, time, all those things, and that's fine. That's just part of our dedication through secret selections to the consumer, right? We want to make sure you guys are having, again, it's just all about helping provide a good experience, because growing's already hard enough. It's already enough things stacked against you, dishonest people and bugs, and your dog, your best canine buddy, might bring in some bugs. Who knows? There's so many things that can happen. So, we do the best that we can to have a consistent performance for people.
So,
So
how? Sorry, JR. We're stepping on each other today. JR, actually, shout out to folks in the chat. Jammin1122 is saying that they're stoked on. They've got the stuffed French toast clone growing right now, and they're about to flip it to flower. And they said they'll get another one soon with the next paycheck that they get. So shout out to that.
Nice.
But JR, we wanted to talk about clone shipping, which is timely because I was actually just going through my stuff last night and I found a clone shipper, with like the little light and all that kind of stuff. So I was curious, how do you ship clones, and do you need like the little light and the dome and all that kind of stuff? How do you ship them?
I don't think that the light is that valuable. I have definitely like the green clone cruiser. Excuse me. They're pretty popular. Excuse me. We definitely also use like those clone cruisers, but just to be honest, they order them out of China. We're getting ready to just do the same thing, order them out of China. You can get them for so cheap. I mean, honestly, they got a pretty good business there selling clone cruisers. But anytime I try to buy them without the light, I don't think the light makes much of a difference at all. If anything, it's going to cause you more problems, right? Last thing you want to do is have your clones that you're trying to safely, discreetly get to somebody, wherever that might be. And then while it's over at whatever service you may select, they notice like, oh, this box is glowing. You know what I mean? Like I always felt that the light caused you more issue in the little plastic shippers. Now the what is the other one that's more like a tall, you can put only one plant in the dirt in there. I cannot remember the name of it right now. Theirs has the light built in a little better. That one, sure, if you want to use it. Again, I don't think that the light makes much of a difference because you need to be getting it there quickly, right? So you always have to choose like your quickest shipping option, whatever that may be. That's my recommendation as far as like having consistency. Another thing that can help if you're trying to maybe send something to one of your friends as a gift or whatever, take a little bit of press and seal plastic wrap or saran, right? And cut some little pieces and then wrap your cube in the saran wrap. The benefit of this is just helping to keep the moisture from being here, right? With the already have your plant transpiring in this little tiny dome. Just by helping to control that, it makes them make it a little longer so they don't dry out suddenly, for one. And then again, like I said, it helps reduce how much ambient moisture is expelled into like where the plants are hanging out.
So everything is a rooted plug that's in a rock wool cube.
Yeah, that's what we're doing right now. I think that we would be open to offering clips. I just, again, you know, it's kind of about the experience, and some people have issues rooting. I know that like in my career, I think I have taught more of my friends how to do cloning than I would have ever guessed. You know what I mean? Not recently, but I feel like in my earlier days, like even a lot of people who like you would just topically look at their profiles and be like, these people know what the fuck they're doing. It's not that they don't know. It's just that for some reason there's little tricks and, you know, things to cloning, and some people struggle. So I could see that creating some issues. And so I try to be mindful of like what the flow of events may be, and try to account for that. But, you know, no matter how much you try to foresee how things may go and people may behave, it's very hard to, you know, prevent there from being anybody who has an issue. So I think it's just part of the game. And if anybody does have an issue, you know, if you're seeing this interview and you're wondering, what if I have a problem? My recommendation is just reach out, just be nice to our customer service team. We're dedicated to helping you. And, you know, once we get through the process, like I said, typically we eat it and we just pay to deliver to you. You know, right out of our own pockets. So that's kind of like what you get when you choose Raw, when you choose Secret Selections, is just that we're focused on, you know, guaranteeing that the customer gets whatever it is that they may have purchased.
Well, I think it's smart that you've chosen the Rockwell Cube, because that way guys who are still, you know, wanting to do hydro, they're prepped and ready for hydro. And other guys who, like me, who do soil, you can go right into the soil and you're just fine. So I think that's an excellent medium to choose.
I've never been a fan of the peat cubes personally. They're not that there's anything wrong with them. I know that a few years back or something, they did have like some actual problem where the people's plants were getting real fucked up from them. But that's like the only time I ever heard of that. Other than that, I just don't prefer them because I don't feel they perform as consistently. The absorbing and expelling water versus rock wool, where it's literally like the shit, you know, the way that they run the weave has a lot to do with how well it retains water in rock wool. And the different, like the slabs will run this way and like the 4-inch cubes will run this way, right? So the drainage, but the slab, you want it to hold water. So I think that's a nice aspect of rock wool, is that they have a little bit more influence over how it works. Plus there's so many options for sizes. So many options.
Yeah, and also a lot more oxygen available to the roots in the rock wool. So, like, talk about the website a little bit and what you have to offer. I placed my order for a couple Z pies, and so tell them what you got on the site for clones right now.
Yeah, no problem. So
get your menu.
Pull up a.
Come on, get your menu,
man. It's hard to remember everything. You know what I mean? So, but let's see here. I know I got it. It's definitely posted on my Instagram. It's also posted on Raw Direct's Instagram. Here we go. So I know right now we've got Gary Payton, Pure Kush, Bacchio Mints, Carbon Fiber, Skywalker, Stuffed French Toast, Trop Cherry, Project 415. And I'm pretty sure that we listed some rainbow berries and some Skittles, because people have been asking for Skittles. We also have Skittles pie on there, which if you're looking for like Skittles, but like a way better experience, Skittles pie all day. Not that Skittles isn't great. It's a phenomenal plant as far as profile goes, but I will say, like, it took me a long time to get used to handling Skittles. She's just finicky like cereal milk. You know what I mean? It's just a little bit touchy. But yeah, we have a good variety of things on there. I have a lot of things that are staged to come back, like Blue Slushy and things like that. A couple other OGs, Pave. We're looking to bring soap and a couple other things. And then I've got like just a long library of stuff that I need to just send out the next round to CSP to go ahead and get that verification. And once we get the verification, then we'll get the cuts ready. So usually the way we do that is we pick whatever we're going to do. We'll get them staging as a mom. As they're getting up to size where we're going to now take the cuts for people, we'll then take the cutting right off the plant that people are getting their cuts from, right? So we're 100% not just testing the genetics, we're actually testing the plant that the clones are actually coming from, right? Because, you may have like other moms or small versions of that plant. We're going to test the one we're going to take the cuts off of, just for the best representation, send that in. And then usually we get the feedback, the clones route, and, everybody's ready to go at that stage.
Well, I think it's really cool that they get stuff that you've personally selected as the breeder. I think that's clutch, and I think a lot of people really kind of vibe on that breeder's cut thing, and I think that's really cool to offer that stuff. Now, when you're offering stuff that is not of your own personal breeding, like say that pure Kush, what makes you want to bring something like that, and maybe talk a little bit about the pure Kush?
That's a good question. Actually, Pure Kush is one of the cuts that I feel like I'm constantly seeing questions about. And so it's letting me know I need to improve the information on the website for the specific item. So yeah, the Pure Kush came to me as PKG. I got it from Zephyr, who got it originally from Seed Junkie. So this is a cut that we got quite a long time ago Seed Junkie got it from somebody else. So it just came to me as PKG, which I believe was Pure Kush Ghost. And so I think there's a person who goes by Ghost or something like that, and this was his Pure Kush cut. It's also been known as Hollywood Pure Kush. I do remember, I can't remember who it was, but years ago when all the shows were still popping, I think it was like Blazer's cut, right? The first time I was gonna offer these Pure Kush cuts, I actually got a ton of hate from like other people who were saying like, I can't believe you would let this out. Like, you're just going to sell it to people for that price. And for me, it's like, man, if we hold this thing and we don't share it with people, where is she going to be? Where is she going to be in 10 years, bro? If I don't, it's like a great example is like the blue cookie. It took me so long to find the real blue cookie. I had so many fake blueberry, blue dream cookie crosses, and then finally got the real one. And just think, what if I never found it? Then it would be even harder to get. We've made it available now because we think it's popular. We think it should be more popular and it should be more available. And it's a great cut, right? And so it's the same thing with the Pure Kush. We just want to make sure that we're offering authentic clones. And I know that is it's kind of rare. It's been around. It's been proven for years. It's a great cut. It's very healthy. It grows nice and big, and it's got solid, traditional pine gas going on. You know what I mean? So it's it's what people are looking for. And same thing with Skywalker. I've had Skywalker for so long, and it's come to a point now. Back in the day, Skywalker was common, right? It was everywhere. Everybody had Skywalker OG. Nobody's worried about it, right? Well, now you can't find it as readily. There's people with it, right? But if it isn't for somebody like us who really values access for people, right? I want people to have access to things, because that was one of the biggest problems when I first wanted to become a breeder. I was dipping my foot in. It's like, how do I access these things? Access is so much better for everybody now versus 8 years ago. It was very hard. You had to know people. You had to be somebody. You know what I mean? Now, a lot of us are sharing these things and helping deliver them to people. But yeah, that's, the authenticity and the rarity, as well as how enjoyable the Pure Kush is. I just feel like it should be in more people's hands, and it shouldn't be hidden. Because what if something happens? What if I lose it? I'm gonna be honest, there's plenty of times where in the library, accidentally, something dies. You know what I mean? And maybe it's Burner's cookie, which is really hard to get this, like, okay, I can go get Thin Mint, but can I get my proven cut back? I know the authenticity of my cut, right? I can't guarantee the authenticity of an equivalent cut.
Right.
So that's part of the issue when it comes to stuff like that, right? And that's why I'm always telling people it's better off to share these things with people that you trust and not be like in a state of mind where it's like, if, oh, I see other people have it now, like it's ruined. It's not. Exclusivity is great, but it's not the end all be all. Plenty of people do fine with cuts that other people also have, right? It's really about like what you do. What's the quality of your work?
Yeah, that's such an interesting. There's a NorCal farm that I really love, and they have their own strain that is a really great combination that I love. And I imagine they're going through this struggle of like it's theirs and it's their, you can only get it from them, and that helps them stand apart and build their brand, which is so important right now in the cannabis scene. You need to build a fucking brand
Yep.
to stay alive. But at the same time, there's this, as a grower and as someone who loves the plant, you want to share it out there, and just like you said, it's also important to preserve genetics. So
Mm-hmm.
before we jump into raw clothing and talking about what's happening there, and we wrap up on the show, could you talk about that real quick of how do you think farmers or growers should approach that? Maybe they hold on to the genetics for like a couple years to like build that business or brand, and then you let it out, or how should they do that?
That's a good question. I'm sure there's probably a variety of approaches to that, and most brands will probably find their own way around it. I don't know. I think that, yeah, it's important to have things that are heavily branded for you so people get to know you for it. But even today, like a lot of major brands are just getting things that are already proven to be good, and then they'll slap new branding on it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And there's really nothing wrong with it. It kind of isn't great for the breeder, maybe, but for branding, then it kind of is like, let me focus on the imagery because we already know we have the quality, right? Because selecting things from hunts is another skill set, right? So you're not just going to be like, let me pop 1,000 seeds and we're going to win. Because, man, let me tell you what, sifting through 1,000 phenos, like, fuck that. I'm not, I would love to try, but I just know how hard it is. The more phenos you have, the harder it gets. And I think I've even heard Burner say it on one of his podcasts. He's like, man, sometimes you just be real happy to just look about 15 to 20 of them. It's way easier to find a winner in the sense of picking it out of the lot, not necessarily due to the numbers, but just like, oh, I've only got like 6 of these that are bangers. You run a bunch of them, you got like, now I got 200 of these. Like, who else's opinion do you value high enough to bring in to help you make those selections and stuff? So, that's why I think a lot of companies will opt to just rename something that's proven, their ice cream cake or whatever, insert anything popular here, and then focus on the branding, the imagery, the bags, the jars, the stickers, the shirts, whatever it is, because what really makes people start to love something is like, it has to be good, but they need to see it a lot too, right? The more that you see something, the more that you don't even realize like it's starting to have an impact on you. And if the visual aspect of how they're presenting the product to you is exciting, it's fun, it's colorful, it tantalizes your brain where you're like, oh, I wanna be a part of whatever this is. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that sometimes is enough to really help you brand a product, right? And then so they don't have to worry so much about is the product in other people's hands because nobody else is doing their branding.
Right.
So I think that it's good to maybe approach some things like that for big brands if you're not tied to a genetics program already, right? Because it's less risk, and then it's just like you can do that for anything. And the reality is it's happening every day, and the consumer really wouldn't know. You wouldn't know most likely unless they tell you, and they're not going to tell you. So,
Yeah.
I think that the branding is important, but yeah, going forward, hopefully bigger brands will not be too worried about like, is their thing going to get out? Because how long is something really popular? Like, unless it's like cookies or runts or OG, like these things hit like a cultural tipping point where like everybody knows, like it's in social media, it's in everything. You know what I mean? It's like ingrained. And so most things don't become that big.
Interesting. Thanks for that. I appreciate that. We had a question before we get into our last set of questions about raw clothing, and we'll do our shout outs and everything. And appreciate your time today, Brad. We really appreciate you hanging out with us this afternoon. We had a question from our live chat from Gina. She was asking about the Sunset Sherbet and Skittles cross that you've done. Is that something that's new that you've done before in the past, or just, I guess, a little bit of background on that one?
I think she might be talking about the Sherb belts, because I don't think I put
Okay.
Sunset Sherbet with Skittles specifically. But yeah, the Sherb belts. So I got the Sunset Sherbet. It's actually probably one of the first like exotics, right, that I had got in the early days. It was kind of like a key to the community as well, which is really funny looking back at it, right? Because I was like struggled to get rare cuts. And then just through like where I managed facilities and stuff, I was able to get the burner and the Sunset. And that was kind of at Sunset's peak, right? So we've had her for quite a while. And yeah, that really just allowed us to gain a lot of access to different things. But we've always kept Sunset around because I feel like even to this day, like you see Sunset in so many different hybrids. And it's just like, I don't know, it was just the right amount of unique and color and like cream. And I guess some people would call it kind of candy. To me, I don't know how really best to describe Sunset's note. I just know that like I've always really been a big fan of Sunset Sherbet. And so that's how I knew, just based on growing it and smoking it for so many years, that I thought it was really built well to help carry the Rainbow Belts candy profile, but add a little bit more diversity to it. And so that was kind of why we made Sherb belts, which I haven't had a chance to personally crack into it yet, but I've heard some feedback from a few of the people who have. And basically it was right in line with what I was expecting, where you've got like the candy and the sweet and the Sherb and almost like gelato profile, really, because let's face it, Sherb is a lot of gelato. And so, yeah, I think it's a really great one. I know I've recommended it to a few people who were like wanting to do breeding and they were looking for candy and stuff. And I was like, oh, hey, like, check this out, man. That might be right up your alley. So yeah, I think that's a great one. Good profile.
Awesome.
Yeah, shout out to AWOL Gina. I sent her a peanut butter pie. So she's flipped it to flour, and she's about to experience some of the peanut butter pie, which I think you also have offered on the clone side as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We do have, which it was not on that list. So you are right. We do have one of our peanut butter pie phenos on there. So like all the phenos from us that West Coast Connoisseur runs, those were selected right alongside these phenos. And so, these and those are eventually going to start being combined together to do some of that line breeding we were talking about earlier in the first segment there. Peanut butter pie is definitely another one where it's like such low leaf ratio, so much flower material. So like calyx to leaf is like really where you want it.
Yeah.
And from the stuffed French toast, you just get these like really powerful branches that kind of like do this, they don't do this. They don't go sideways on you too much, so you just get such great big buds, low leaf, super, super frosty. The majority of them are hash makers. So Georgia's proven to have a good consistency in like things that make hash, and stuffed French toast does nearly 5%. It's like 4 something to rosin, if I'm not mistaken. And so the two of them combined together really just creates like a Cadillac experience where you're just kind of like sitting back and just next thing you know, you just got these big old gas pack buds on your hands, and trimming them is like a breeze. And so yeah, man, they are, you can almost not even trim them. Like if you don't mind a little bit of leaf sticking out, you can just snip them off and pull the bigger fans out, and you're kind of like, man, this is smokable now.
Nice.
So that's reminds me of that. You remember the trim brush?
Yeah,
that was out for a minute. Seems like that would be the kind of variety you can use a trim brush on.
Yeah, the little silicone brush.
Those are interesting. So yeah, let's wrap this up about raw clothing, which I think JR, aren't you? You've been like a model for raw clothing, right, JR?
My guy's been shooting me
I've
some
been
high quality pictures, you know, trying to get some more pictures. I don't want to fill the page with only JR's beautiful face here, you know what I mean? So
Are we
my
gonna
guy
get a
bro, he sent me a stack of really, really good pictures. All of them are saved. They're all gonna get rolled out and like recycled one by one. But yeah, man, I want to do, and I need to create more formal like posting around this. But what I want to do is get to where like a lot of people have been buying from us. If you don't need to have your face in it, just show us. Like, I don't care. It can be outside in public. It doesn't have to be in a grow room, right? It's honestly probably better for Instagram if it's not, just because Instagram fucking sucks these days, you know. But yeah, so my whole plan with Raw Clothing Company is basically I want to provide really high quality clothing that people can wear on a daily basis, right? One of the problems that I see with a lot of my peers that are also coming out with good products for clothing is everything screams, I'm a fucking stoner. You know what I mean? And like, sure, there's plenty of times where you're like, you're not doing anything and it doesn't matter if people see this kind of imagery. But I think that it's more enjoyable if it's kind of like, if you know kind of thing. And so that's why we're focused on stuff like you see, like we've got Raw Genetics, we got our ape, we got Barry in there, and you can see Flavor Forward, which is kind of one of our things there. And if you don't know what Raw Genetics is, you may think this is like workout clothing. Who knows what you think that is? When you look at it, it doesn't scream, you know what I did? I just smoked a fat joint. That's not what it says to you. So, you know, my goal is to provide things that people can wear on a daily basis. I feel like the quality that we've started at is a really, really great launch level, right? Like the hoodies are really good quality, the shirts are really good quality, and all the imagery should be durable in the wash. So far, I've actually only had one complaint out of probably a few hundred orders where they said they washed it twice and then they had an issue. And I told them right away, like, hey, you shouldn't have that problem. I did like all my research so that I can know I'm doing something. And I've got my own stuff. I'm washing it here regularly. We're throwing it in the dryer, which isn't recommended, but I'm throwing it in the dryer. Everything's been holding up. I haven't had anything get like ruined by the dryer. I haven't had extreme shrinkage on any of the clothing to where it's like a belly shirt all of a sudden. So yeah, we're just focused on trying to give things that will last. And so like you can help support Raw, make it the long run and jump over all the hurdles so we can get into the rec market. You know, it's really just about reaching more people and having more things available. Not everybody's got room to grow. Not everybody can grow. Maybe some people only want to smoke, but maybe they like Raw and they want to support. Well, if the only thing we have is seeds, I understand. Like if you're not growing, why would you buy the seeds? You know, you shouldn't. It's a waste of your money if you're not having any intention in your time to use them. So that's why we're focused on trying to offer more things that people can enjoy. Another thing that I'm trying to get into, I'm working on it actively right now, is I've always been into collectibles. If you can't tell, you know, I got a couple of collectible items. You know, I got some bear bricks and stuff like that. Collect Pokemon cards and Pogs as a kid and all that shit. So I've always been the type of person to collect things, and I really like that experience. And I see other people in the community that are too. So we're focused on creating some art toys right now, and we're going to offer like an art toy. I'm kind of thinking like how Cause and stuff. Obviously, we're not Cause, but you know, just like that style, or like how the bear bricks, like even this is like a collaboration with an artist here, you know. And so we're going to use our ape and we're going to create a couple of different things. And then we'll make those available where like maybe you can get limited edition seeds with it. Maybe you can just buy the figure or the statue or whatever it is by itself. And I'd like to be obviously pair like clothing with it. I have like a pretty good idea of what the first thing is I'm trying to do here. And I don't want to throw it out there yet. I've definitely told a few people in the community and stuff, but I'll let people wait just to make sure I can execute on this really well. But yeah, I think it's going to be really fun. You know, I think it would be cool. I mean, like if you like collectibles, I mean, I like to have my collectibles near me when I'm rolling up and smoking a fatty, you know what I mean? Like, even though it doesn't really do anything, I just want to smoke with my bear, you know what I mean? So I just kind of figured I can't be the only one. And so, yeah, we're focused on starting to step into that area and create more experiences, more things that people can have and enjoy. That again, like it's not going to be like look at it and go like, oh, this is about weed. Like, I'm trying to make it creative and tasteful to where you look at it and you're like, oh, okay, I see what this is. It's because they're a seed company, right? But it doesn't say, hey, this is about weed. It doesn't look like weed at all. Like, I feel like that's probably something that is going to be really enjoyable for more people. I've got good feedback on that approach with the clothing. And I'm down to do stuff that has like the imagery on it. But I just know, me personally, I don't want to get hassled in public. I mean, I'll smoke joints in public, but I don't know. It's something about it. Like, if you're wearing like a strain tee, which I feel like is the most popular approach from most of my peers in the community, is like creating tees that represent like the strain, right? Because it's good marketing. But like, I personally don't want to wear that in public. I don't want to wear that like out and about. Like, I just don't think it's not for me. It's not the style that I like. And so I'm just trying to lean into that. And again, everything for me is kind of about like, how does this create experience for other people, right? You don't want someone to get like looked down on, be like, oh, what is this weed shit? Not that it should matter, but everybody's got a different threshold of tolerance of like what they can handle, criticisms and things like that. So I think it's easier to just make it, if you know, and then it's fun, because if you see another community member, you may not realize it, because someone's like, oh, hey, Rob, bro, like I got the other shirt, man. And you're like, oh, dude, it's good to meet you, man. And who knows, maybe you make a friend in public or something. So anything's possible.
I think that's cool. So now with your design, like with the ape, that's derived from your NFT, correct?
Yeah, it's from the Bored Ape Yacht Club. Ours is a mutant, and so I'm definitely like, I love NFTs. I love Web3. I don't think that's anything new for people. I'm really into the whole situation there, even though I feel like it's misunderstood by a lot. But that's okay, because everybody's going to kind of figure it out over time. I mean, if you think about NFTs, the majority of them, you should just consider them as like a collectible item, right?
Yeah.
It's something you collect. It may have value, right? Like, I didn't pay a crazy amount for this bear, but there's only so many of them. There are bear bricks that sell for thousands of dollars, right? Like, it's just about demand and attention and stuff like that. So, but not everything we're doing is going to be obviously centered around the ape or NFTs or anything like that. I'm just trying to do a variety of designs that, again, like, doesn't look like anything too crazy. Like, if you see a lot of the designs, most of them may look like a Vans shirt or Patagonia or whatever, but you're going to have like raw genetics, maybe with one of our slogans, Fuel to Jet or Flavor Forward or something. And then we'll just, build around those things.
Well, I thought it was kind of genius that you took your intellectual property in that NFT and you applied it in your business as a tangible, real thing. Yeah. And I think that's an awesome use for NFTs. And I think that's something that business owners and designers should consider is, you have ownership of that intellectual property, and that all isn't always cheap and sometimes challenging.
Yeah.
100%. I mean, that is definitely one of my favorite parts of the whole Web3 NFT crypto experience, right? Not all of these things give you like access rights to the IP, but the apes do, a lot of other ones do. And it's like, it can be very hard to come up with characters and these things. And it's just like another tool you can use in your creative process. If you think like the imagery could fit the branding and you have an idea. So far, we've had phenomenal feedback from people. I've definitely used like the ape. We used a dippy. I've done a couple of ones with the wicked bones. And you know what I mean? It's like the feedback on them is amazing. The best-selling shirts that we have is the MAYC Raw, and then the flying ape one, which is like a wicked bone. It's like an old school ape.
Yeah, I want that
aviator
one
and the man. So it's like,
you didn't
those. I didn't have the big shirts yet.
You didn't have the big boy size. Come on now.
Yeah, I know. So we've got 3 and 4X now, and I'm trying to also get those in hoodies. And it's a little bit of a slow crawl on it, because it's not really like clothing, pretty much everything that you make with the clothing right now, because I'm trying to develop this. I pretty much like I'm buying right back in. There's some revenue generation going on, but it's really just a lot of reinvest. And that's another reason why we've also been offering test seeds with the apparel. I think that it helps people take a chance on the apparel to see the quality of it, and then they get a benefit. And what I'm really looking for, just as a side note, I feel like it's worth mentioning because I know people have been asking, is I'm looking to build an alpha team of testers. I've gone up and down with testers over the years, right? It's a very complicated situation. But I think that with enough attention and people who are actually interested in being a part of the process, that we can develop a team of people where I can give them some benefits, right? We've got enough things going on to where we can give them discounts, or obviously they're going to be getting seeds anyway. But if you're somebody who's interested in being a part of the process and you want to help test some of the genetics, we're looking for you. And the way that you get in is just purchase a clothing item, use the promo code. I believe it's Flavor Forward right now. Even if you forget the promo code, I'm pretty much just putting them in there. But if you get the seeds and you pop them and you do a good job, we're just looking for consistent feedback, people who are excited to hunt new things and post good pictures, right? And so if you think that might be you, go ahead, place an order. Life hack, go ahead and buy a hat pin. It costs $15. You could buy 10 hat pins, just get 10 testers. Nobody said you had to buy a $60 hoodie. You know what I mean? It's like no limit. It's really just whatever you guys want to do here. Because for me, I'm looking for testers. We've created a Discord server that's going to be dedicated to this, which is also going to function under Secret Selections. We've got like a little team going on there. There's other breeders. Umami is probably the other biggest breeder. And then there's a variety of like other breeders from like the community and stuff like that. So it's not just about getting raw genetics tested, but we are there. We are kind of like the backing of this program that we're trying to build here. And if people are interested, like there's a whole flow chart to get in, there's an interview and the whole nine. And then once people are in, you just got to do what you said you were going to do. And then you can move up the ranks to, this alpha status. And then from there, like I'm looking at how do I offer, value back to the community that's helping along the way. It's not just like, oh, here's free seeds, because like, let's be honest, it can be labor intensive and it can be challenging to hunt seeds all the time. Even I get sometimes where I'm just like, oh man, I miss the days of running a room full of one pheno, or every table is just one type of plant. Those rooms perform so much better than pheno hunts, right? Like anybody who's thinking like I'm gonna pheno hunt, it's gonna pay my bills, you're probably wrong. You're probably yeah. I'm just saying, like, unless you've got like a real serious setup going on and can get those things real big, I mean, pheno hunting it's work, it's something you got to be passionate about. So I respect that. And the people who want to help long term, I am looking at like what's valuable, right? We can obviously get people genetics, we can give you discounts on clothing, we get the alpha team hooked up. And then if this thing really kicks off, I've still been trying to figure out like where can I fit something in here that's like a digital asset, like an NFT or something like that. I feel like Secret Selections and the alpha team might be a good place to try to throw in something like that, just so like the alpha team can represent themselves in public with like unique images, but like only the alpha team would have these, you know what I mean? And like just really try to create a position where like when people see it, they're like, oh, that's part of Secret Selections alpha team, and it becomes something that's like desirable, like, oh, I want to also be a part of that experience, right? Beyond the alpha team, have the benefits, have the access, and then obviously you're going to get the genetics first and pretty much free. Maybe you got some shipping or something like that. But more or less, like, you're going to be up in the earliest group of people having access to things that won't be releasing for, 3 to 6 months or something like that.
That I can kind of attest to that, because you when you gave me the cherry Paloma, it was basically in a tester form. There's no packaging, nothing. And I brought that home and I cracked it and I hunted it with the jelly donuts.
Yep.
And both of them were outstanding. I sent the jelly donuts back to Neptune. I think Tiki has it.
Yeah, I think Tiki's
And
got
then
it right now.
the cherry Paloma, you know that. I mean, it's everywhere, and people are freaking out about it. So there's a lot of value in being a tester and pheno hunting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I really enjoy it. I enjoy it, and to be honest with you, I'm in a situation to where I have to have stuff that performs,
Mm-hmm.
because at the end of the day, quality is what counts. And
Yep.
everybody now wants a lot of different flavors. So you almost are in a position to where you're either bringing in a lot of cuts where you're spending a lot more money, or you're pheno hunting. And for me, pheno hunting your gear is I'm usually guaranteed to have 2 or 3 winners out of like 5. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And so I can keep those winners in rotation to keep people happy. And I'm telling you, your consistency in your genetics is what helps me be able to pheno hunt and kind of stay ahead of the curve.
Yeah, man. We've been getting great feedback, and I've seen like everything's going really solid for you. And yeah, man, the cherry Paloma is like everywhere. Obviously, it's the one that we've been giving to people right now. We got from you as well, and I know you've given it to a ton of people. And literally, like, I think we had like already released cherry Paloma by the time you got done testing it. And once your pictures came out and stuff, it's not like we didn't have good pictures, but something about like the what you brought to the table just gave crazy life to cherry Paloma. And it went from like where I'm looking at it as a breeder and going like, this has everything to be a 10. Why are people not going crazy for this? Right. Cause that happens. Sometimes you make things and the market just doesn't respond the way you think. But as soon as you came out with your pictures and the clone and all that stuff, it was like a wildfire was set. And now cherry Paloma is in our top 5 of sellers,
Wow.
like constantly. Yeah, it's like at the point with like blue slushy and Skittles pie and stuff where I'm like, we can't run out of this. So I'm like actively trying to make sure that like we're able to maintain keeping that in stock long term. You know what I
That's
mean?
really cool. Hell yeah.
Yeah, which
That's an
which is great to see that feedback.
that's a testament to the sharing model.
Yeah,
If I had hoarded that cut to myself and only handed it to a couple of my buddies, there's no way that cherry Paloma wave would have took off. But
right.
because I was willing to share it with the DGC, shout out to the DGC.
Yeah, man. Shout out.
Those shout out. I mean, our brothers and sisters, we really got it out there, and I spread Paloma all across the nation. So I hope the wave is just beginning, my friend.
Yeah, man. It definitely had a huge impact. And like, that's again why I always say the same thing. Like, you got to share these things. Maybe you don't want to share it with 100 people like JR did, but you got to have at least two or three. You got to have at least 2 or 3 people. You know what I mean? You're like, man, that's my boy. That's my homegirl. Like, I got them. Let me bless them with a couple of slips and then get the real
Yeah.
feedback. Because the other side of the coin is like, okay, it's a 10 to you, right? Like it's a 10 to me, but is it really a 10 to everybody? I don't know until I see like 10, 15 people grow it. Once everybody gives feedback, they're like, this shit's crazy. This shit's crazy. Like another, like an old school one well, it's not that old, but it's a little bit older, tie dye. I'm probably going to be bringing tie dye back. Even to this day, like I get crazy feedback on tie dye. Which was Runts Burnt Toast and like the candy. And like I see people who like, I know one guy, he bought 5 packs from one place and he's like, they didn't store them very well. So the germ wasn't that great. And he bought 5 more packs from another place. He bought 10 packs just to get his hunt on. And
Wow.
then he was like, yeah. And
Yeah.
then he was like, loving what he's finding. He's like, can I use these males? I'm like, bro, it's a green light for me all day. Like I like when people ask, but I don't care. Like, you don't need to ask me. It's a green light. If you find something cool from Raw and you want to do something, like, don't worry about me. Do you? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I
Yeah.
just don't.
And I was sharing, I kind of had that concept with, sharing with the DGC.
Yeah.
It's about helping them be successful and taking that opportunity to maybe level up a little bit.
Yeah. Plus, I feel like you know, I feel like most people can feel a sense of reward from helping their fellow man or their friends, or even people who may just
Yeah.
be like, you know, you don't know them that well, you know, just like to see that you've done something that didn't take from you and it gave a lot to another person. That's great, you know, like people should really value having the ability to offer that, and that's why I think sharing is great, because it just helps. It helps people, you know. And this is
Yeah, it
it
does.
used to be about people at one point. Like I remember 10 years
Right.
ago,
Right.
this was
Right.
this was about community, you know, and like this is about the
Yeah.
people and the plant and stuff like that. And now everything is so corporate and commercialized, and I think that's the natural evolution of it. But there's no reason why we all have to abandon some of the ties that brought us all together, which was like this plant and the notion of community. You know what I mean?
Right.
So sharing is truly caring.
So,
And I think home grows and micro licenses will also help bring the plant back to the people in the community.
for sure, for
Absolutely.
sure. Well, Brad, this has been a banger of a show. Thanks so much for hanging out with us this afternoon. We really appreciate your time. Before we let you go, where can people find all the projects that we talked about today? We've talked about raw genetics, Zephyr seeds, your clones, and raw clothing. Where can people find all these things?
For sure. So rawgenetics.io is where you're going to find the majority of our seed drops, as well as Zephyr. You can also get Zephyr at tikiseeds.com, which is Tiki's site. Then you'd be getting them direct from him, which is always good. And then as far as clothing, that is rawclothingco.com. And then for the clone side of things, that is secretselections.io. Everything's kind of spread out so things can start to take on their own life, and it's not all just centralized on the seed website, because again, like with the clothing company, the goal is to reach a lot of people, and I I feel like the seed site might turn a few people away, right? They're not going to dig in to go find the clothing that has nothing to do with weed. So yeah, it's rawgenetics.io, secretselections.io, and rawclothingco.com. Those are our main things there.
Awesome. And then
Yeah.
our last question for you for the day was, are there events out there? We are into 2023, which is crazy. We're almost into February, which is wild.
Right.
Can people expect you to see you out in real life this year? Do you have any things on the schedule or things that you're thinking about attending?
So I love doing shows. It's a good time, but last year was not a good year for shows, really, just between turnout, COVID money's dried up, economy, whatever it is, all the scaring going on in the media. It's making people kind of be more reserved. It wasn't as good of a year for doing shows. I know that there is one that we usually do in I believe it should be next month. I don't know if it's still happening, but it's like a secret the seed stash or something like that. Either way, it's put on over in Colorado there, and that's one of the best events. It's very straightforward. It's 100% focused on seeds. They bring people in like waves, have about 4 hours to do what they got to do, and then 4 hours later they bring another group of people in or something like that. That one we'll probably be looking to do, but as of right now, I don't really have any other anything else like on the schedule that I'm looking at.
Awesome. Well,
Nice.
go ahead, JR.
We do have the announcement that the Duke Grows Cup will be June 3rd in Fort Collins, Colorado. So
Nice.
if you get a chance to just come hang out or grab a booth, we'd love to see you out there.
Yeah, I think I should be able to make it this year. I know, I think last year when it happened, it was like my daughter came into town right at the same time, so I wasn't able to leave. It was something like that that held me up. But yeah, if it's going to be in June, you said June, right?
Yeah, June 3rd.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that should definitely work. We should be able to pull it off, because I definitely love to pull up, you know, come smoke out with the DGC, kick it with you and Scotty and you know, the dude and everybody. So yeah, man, I'll look forward to trying to get that in the schedule.
Nice. We'd love to see you. And I see Neptune just joined. Thanks, Neptune, for joining.
What's going on, buddy?
What's up, buddy?
Yeah, right on time. We wanted to give a shout out to everyone that's been watching on our live stream. If you're watching this right now on YouTube or listening on a podcast or far flung feature in some other form, we appreciate your time today. If you want to support the show, please go to CannaBuzz.app or search CannaBuzz in the App Store. Download our app and become a member. We'd really appreciate it. It helps pay our bills for our community and also hosting the podcast and all that fun stuff. So we really appreciate your support. Use the code NEWYEAR for 50% off your first month. Definitely check out all of Brad's projects that he's talked about today. We really appreciate his time and knowledge that he's dropped today. And also thanks to our friend over at TikiMadMan.com. If you need some genetics and some of the things that we talked about today, you can find them over at TikiMadMan.com. Well, Brad, thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate it. JR, thank you for your time that you put in today and all the questions that you brought together. And we appreciate everyone's time. So growers
Absolutely,
love.
man. Thanks for
Growers
having
love.
me. Shout out to the community. Major thank you to everybody who continues to support Raw Genetics and the different ventures that we take on. And we certainly couldn't do it without you.
Awesome, guys. Well, we'll see you in the next one. Peace, everyone.
Peace.